Welcome to the Arsenal show. We are live. I'm still smiling. Steve's got his new toys, and Jerome. Well, Jerome's just Jerome. How is everyone? I see people already watching. Make sure you hit that like. Make sure you hit that subscribe, and make sure you're in the comment section, talking to us, talking to people watching. Don't be shy. All right. Before we move ahead, I've got to say hello to my co-hosts. They're all my co-hosts. Firstly, Steve K. How you doing, Steve?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Still reveling in our Sunday win over Spurs. Finished now sending all me messages to me ex Tottenham mates because they seem to they seem to hate me. But yeah, got me serious head on there. Brighton, got to go there, do the same. But good.
All right. And Jerome. Welcome, Jerome Marks. How you doing, Jerome?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Watching, going onto the official website and seeing like the bench cam today.
Everyone was buzzing about seeing that bench cam, weren't they?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, quality.
Good. I think everyone wants to see that celebration from Mikel Arteta again.
Yeah.
He's done. I think that's going down in history. That one, I think it is. But so today's topic of conversation is gonna be: have Arsenal turned? No, I refrain from that because I'm not going to say turn the corner. Are Arsenal turning a corner? Turning. Are the right things happening to make this team move forward, or is it a false dawn? I mean, we've seen many of them before. I don't know whether at the time people were saying Arsenal are back or Arsenal have turned a corner or anything like that, because I don't remember the last time I felt that way myself. So I can't say that that's such a thing. But yeah, is it a false dawn or Arsenal turning a corner? We're going to start with a question with you, Steve. Are you seeing the right things happening going forward? Is it Arsenal turning the corner, or is this? Are you waiting for something bad to happen?
You've always got to wait for something bad to happen where Arsenal are concerned, don't you? You know, we always. Yeah. How many times we've been there before when we think that we're going to go ahead and things have changed. But I tell you, I think what's different about this now than these times I'm talking about from past is that when I look at the team now, it's probably the best team we've had since the Cazorla and Wiltshire and Chamberlain days. Mm-hmm. So I think we've got a team that now could definitely push for Europe. With Champions League, although I think that sort of that target has now probably been brought forward a bit more in my eyes. I think before I was looking at 3-4 years. I think that it could be 2-3 years now. But look, we always worry with Arsenal. But what I have seen, I've been very happy with. We've seen some good performances away to difficult places, like Burnley. And we played very well against Norwich, where we had loads of chances. It was just, we couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. That was pleasing. We mentioned on the show, on that post-match, what we felt that they had to do to change to score the goals. And they did that against Tottenham. So with this side going forward, we've not turned a corner. But I'm definitely a lot more, excited than I was, 2-3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Jerome, do you think Arsenal are turning the corner? Do you think they're moving forward progressively, or do you think there's still loads to do and this is, as some would say, papering over the cracks?
God, it's good question. I think everyone feels a lot better now than what they did definitely a couple of weeks ago, even 1 week ago. That type of win, it just brings such a good feeling. Yeah. Especially not only just the result, but the way the team played. you know what? Even though it was an amazing win and the team played well, that shot near the end that hits the bar goes in, and it's a very different last few minutes, and God knows what would have happened. So there's a lot of positive signs from that game. You know, it's the first time, like we said, that he's had his first choice team to pick. Mm-hmm. But it's a proper one-off, that type of game in terms of the fans and the atmosphere, and it won't be like that against like Palace at home in a couple of weeks in terms of the atmosphere. So let's see how the team plays this weekend. Prime example.
Yeah.
Tough game. Won't have the crowd behind them.
Brighton.
Yeah.
Usually not struggle against Brighton, but it's usually a tough game at least.
Yeah, it'll be definitely a hard game. Uh-huh. But everyone's definitely feeling a lot better, a lot more optimism, but cautiously because even though we won the couple of games before, it wasn't as if we won them really convincingly. They were both 1-0 wins. They weren't. We didn't thrash both teams. Have loads of clear cut chances, but I think that people can see that if this team stays fit and stays together, then we've got a much better chance than what we thought we had a few weeks ago, for sure. Yeah.
So, Steve, were Arsenal good, or did Tottenham just stink out the place?
Arsenal were good. I can't stand this after the game when you get pundits and the first thing they turn around and the first thing they want to talk about when Arsenal are playing, and it does always seems to be when it's Arsenal. I don't know why they look at the other team and how bad they were, but Tottenham are a good side. They got top players in there. Arsenal had to perform. They had to be at their best to beat Tottenham, and they run the midfield, which stopped Tottenham playing from the midfield. That's what you have to do to inform in the Premier. And they did that. If they wouldn't have won that midfield battle, then it could have been enough score. We was fantastic on the day. We went through the player ratings, and right from 1 to 11. I mean, we was waxing lyrical about every single player. I think it's been sort of like since the season started, it's got, even though we've lost games, we've got progressively better, which is a really good sign from what I see it. We played against Brentford and we was pretty bad. Yeah. And then we played against Chelsea, and although we lost, we was like, that was better. Then we was very good against West Brom. I mean, okay, then we got hiding from Man City, but look, Man City, and we was down to 10 men. So that was one. Man City will do that to a lot of sides this season. And then we went on to Burnley, and then we went on to Norwich, and then we gone for Tottenham. So at the moment, things are looking good. Rose in the garden. There's, we're going up that ladder. And if I was Mikel Arteta, I'd be sitting in his progressively over the season. So when we play Brighton, I don't want to see us come back. I want to see us continue. I don't want it. We always say that everyone always can get up for the Spurs game. I don't want to see Arsenal drop down a level now to sort of playing the way we did against Burnley and Norwich. I want them to continue going on that level. I don't want to struggle against Brighton's no more. I don't want to struggle against Burnley's no more. I don't want to struggle against Southampton aways no more. And I think we've got the team there, Kieran, now that we can do that. So, it's a massive game the weekend, because it's going to give us an idea of the players' mentality after a big London derby, because we don't want them to come down. We need them to stay there. And if they come down a bit, that's a bit worrying, because Arsenal, we need them to be up there all the time at that level, because our substitutes, players that that great. So I think it's good. And I think we were great against Tottenham, but I want to see the same against Brighton. Massive game.
Jerome, you mentioned that Arsenal. You don't think Arsenal will do this against like a Crystal Palace. What's stopping them from taking this energy that they had against Tottenham into a game against Brighton, into a game against Crystal Palace, into a game against Villa? Like games where there's no easy games. Look, you got Norwich. Like Norwich aren't good. Like they're in a bad place. Anyone that's down there that's like that, they're in a bad place. But Villa's, they're no mugs anymore. Brighton, they're no mugs. Crystal Palace, they're no. And if you look at the record that we have against Crystal Palace, it's a tough game. It's either like a 1-0 or it's either a tie or a draw. Why can't we take that energy into these games? Because player for player, we're a better team.
Yeah. Well, maybe they will. Maybe they will. Like I said, it's the first time really we've seen that sort of team together. The crowd has a lot to do with it because the players feed off of that energy. It's like when Liverpool have Champions League nights at Anfield. Like they're a different. I don't know if they're a different kettle of fish, but it's so hard to go there on a Champions League night because the crowd are up for it and the players just like they buzz off of it. But yeah, they've got a chance now, Arsenal, to show that wasn't a one-off. But this is where the attitude of the players comes in. This is where the manager earns his money, motivating these players, and they've set the benchmark, haven't they? Now they've set the standard. And you sort of asked Steve, did Arsenal play well or did Spurs play poorly? We've watched this team obviously for a long time, and it was obvious to us, wasn't it, that we played well?
Yeah.
Because we've played against teams that maybe haven't played great against us, but we might have been equally as poor. But it was, but for Arsenal fans that have watched the team over recent years, it was obvious that performance was head and shoulders above what we've seen recently. So yeah, there's no sort of excuses sort of anymore. They've set the standard, and now let's see if they can continue it.
What encouraging signs have you seen going forward? What have you seen that's encouraging to you to make you think that potentially, if Arsenal are to move on, to push on, to really get into them European spots again? I'm not talking about top 4 necessarily, but I'm talking about the top 6 or even if it's 7th to get back into Europe. What is it that you've seen over the start of the season, or since? Forget the first 3 games. Since they've had the team back together, what have you seen going forward potentially could push this team forward up in the league?
Yeah, well, it's pretty much a whole new defence. So it's a lot of it's personnel, really. So the goalie, just the attitude of the goalie is top drawer. Obviously, it's a new right back, and the right back was sort of an area of weakness for us recently. It's mainly personnel, and the likes of Saka and Smith Rowe, obviously that bit older now. They're just going to get better and better. I think, like I said, maybe last time perhaps playing Saka on the right, I think is a must. I think that's where you get the best out of him. And yeah, I think keeping Partey fit is very important, especially now. Obviously, Xhaka looks to be out for maybe a couple of months, perhaps.
Get well soon, mate.
Yeah. So yeah, it's mainly the personnel.
Yeah. So along with the personnel, Steve, this team's been sort of spoken about as having no leaders and a weak mentality. I think we spoke about it the other day. This seems to be more leaders. Is the change in personnel plus a change in mindset something that will help to pushing up in the league and getting them top 6 spots?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've known over at least the last 2, 3, maybe even 4 seasons that Arsenal have always said that we're easy to get at. There's when we're down or we're losing, we've not got those players who can push us forward. But that, to me, that's changed. I mean, you've got Ramsdale in goal. I mean, he's a lead at the back. I mean, I just love that bloke. I just love him. He makes a save like he scored a goal, and that, it's fantastic. I think Tierney now, he's coming into his own as a defender as well as an attacking left back. And we all know Kieran Tierney's, he is that leader, and also Thomas Partey in the middle of that park. But him and Xhaka was fantastic against Spurs. And again, it's just like typical Arsenal. It's just, he gets injured, he's out for 2 months when, the majority of Arsenal fans was getting excited over seeing these two now going forward for the next 2 months, and now he's out for 2 months. That's just typical. But it's a chance.
Someone said it earlier. They said before they were getting annoyed that Xhaka was in the team, and now as soon as he gets in the team and he's playing well again, they're annoyed that he's out of the team. They said he can't win.
I had a look on Twitter today, and boy is the tune changed.
Yeah.
But I think it's because the people, you can say when he's had a bad game and even when he has a good game. I mean, I like Xhaka, but I'll always say if he's had a bad game. But yeah, I mean, wish him better. He's the type of player that we need. He's that another leader that you was talking about. But he's one of these players who also hopefully he's a tough cookie, and hopefully he'll get back sooner than the time that has been given that he could be out, because like Jerome said, for 2 months. Maybe he'll be back earlier than that, but I think he's only going to miss 3 games because of cup games and international breaks. But there's leaders appearing. They're coming all over the pitch. There's in different ways. With his, not so much with his shouting, but with his performances. Tomiyasu the same. You all of a sudden now, it seems to be littered with leaders and people shouting and screaming to get people going. I'm just praying that in the next against Brighton we can see the same. I don't want to see that mentality drop, but. Yeah, I mean, there's some great leaders there now, haven't there? I mean, Gabriel as well. He's becoming a leader. They were talking about like Aubameyang being captain and the next captain being Tierney or Xhaka or whatever. He's a shout. He's a shout for me, Gabriel, and it just shows you over the last few games what happens when you get your full team together.
Yeah, it says a lot about like the team, what they've got, what they're putting around the team, how they're sort of working to change that mentality. Because we've seen it ourselves. We've seen this team take leads and lose it. We've seen this team be near the top of the league and drop off. We've seen this team when they come up against someone tougher, it's like they've not even come out the dressing room. But it's weird how the personnel hasn't changed too much, but the mentality for me has. As you said earlier, Aaron Ramsdale, he looks like a leader, tough northern lad. I've got a lot of time for him. Gabriel, I agree, and I think as he goes forward, probably learns the language a bit better, speaks more, because we've not heard too much of him speak. And I think once that happens, then you'll get that real sort of leadership side, because he can probably speak English now, but it's just a bit more about confidence as opposed to knowing the language. Kieran Tierney all day long. The geezer will run through walls to his detriment for this club. And he's already saying he loves the club, which again, it just shows that there's an atmosphere around that's building something. And that's what I like. I like that you can see it yourself. You can see the players sticking together. You can see just little things, people backing each other up. It's for me, it's very much moving in the right direction. we saw on the weekend that Daniel Ek was in the stadium. He was sitting with Thierry Henry. Speculation started building, and then news came out that he is still interested in buying the club. But with the money that's been spent in the summer, as we said, the club looking like they're moving forward. This is not 100%. It's not me saying they're winning the league or winning the World Cup, because there's a lot more to do. Is it the right time to be thinking about a takeover, or is it a case of you carry on with what you're doing and hope that the chairman sticks with what he says and was continuing to invest in the team? Steve, you go first.
It's hard to give Stan Kroenke credit, but I'm going to start off with a positive from his side, and I don't think I've ever given him a positive since he's come to the club. Mikel Arteta has got a lot of stick since he's come to the club on the way he's played, who he hasn't got, who he ain't got. Now this 11 that started against Spurs, if that's his vision, with another, what I told you today, Kieran, that Arsenal were looking for 3 more players in January/summer. Mm-hmm. If he gets those players in, because we know we need those players that I mentioned to you, then I'm willing to give him a chance. I'm willing to give him one more chance, and let's see what happens. And the only reason why I say that is because I see a team building, and you never know. Sometimes the grass is even worse on the other side, and there's no guarantee that Daniel Elk's going to come in and Arsenal are going to change. There's not a lot more Arsenal need. So at this moment in time, I would see what happens in January in the summer, and whether he gets those final players that he needs. And if Kroenke backs him, and if he gives him the money, then I think we should leave it for a while and see that. But once if Lacazette leaves, and if we don't get a new goalkeeper in, and if we don't get this other player in that we want, and we just stay as we are, then I think that question's got to come up again, and then Daniel Ek's got to come in, and he's got to take over, because we always said at the beginning when Mikel Arteta come to the club that we found it very hard for him to come in and say, to come in and be told that we're not going to back you, or you're not going to get what you want, because I don't think he would have come in. So it looks like he's building a team. It looks like it's a good team. That 11 is fantastic. I just think it needs a little bit more work in January and the summer. But to answer your question, I'm willing to give him a little bit of a break for another season, a breather. A little bit of a breather, just on the facts that I can see the team what we are now, and we're building. I wouldn't want to rock the boat.
Steve has given him a pardon for now. Jerome, same question to you. Do you feel that it's a case of you don't want to rock the boat? You've seen what Kroenke's invested in the summer. Do you believe that he will continue to invest? And 2, do you think it's right to even contemplate bringing in Daniel Ek right now?
A lot of it's dependent on results, isn't it? No one was probably calling for Kroenke out after the game on Sunday. Yeah. The thing with Kroenke is just him as an individual, because he doesn't say anything. You can't build a kind of like relationship with him. You can't. I don't think anyone probably likes, in terms of as a person. You can't say, I like him as a person, I like him as an individual, because we don't know him, and that doesn't help. He's so distant. You got to give credit to the Kroenkes in the summer, because they hardly brought in any money at all from player sales, and they obviously spent a lot, and that's obviously with all the the amount of money the club probably lost during COVID as well. So fair play to them for that. But like I said at the beginning, I think it's just dependent on results. If the team are playing poorly, then the fans are going to say we need to invest money, and then they're going to look at the owners for that, because then they won't be happy with the current players, and the only way to strengthen normally is to spend some money. But for the moment, I'm not really worried. I'm not really thinking about the ownership. I'm more worried about the team on the pitch and Arteta picking the best players, and with him working, on different formations, and the ownership thing for me is sort of very much at the back of my mind. Look, it's nice. It's flattering that someone like that is interested. It's nice that they're a fan, because straight away you probably like them that bit more than Kroenke, because they would be in it probably obviously for money, but also if they're a fan and they like the club as well. And obviously the fact that they're associated with Henry doesn't do him any, does him quite a few favours, doesn't it? To be linked with like a legend of the club. That's a good bit of PR. That
it is. But like, I think people have to remember that you don't become a businessman to his level by being a nice guy. Like he can be a nice to his friends and but he's a businessman. He's a serious businessman. He didn't become one of the richest people in the world by like being like Mr. Nice Guy. Like, so you can for me it's a bit of a Cristiano Messi kind of thing. Messi for years was seen as the nice guy because he never said anything, whereas Cristiano Ronaldo was the arrogant one. Yet they're probably both as arrogant as each other, and we don't know what Messi was like behind the scenes, or we've started to hear stories now, and then you see what he's like with the tax. So he's not as the Mr. Nice Guy as what everyone first thought. You see what I'm saying? So because he sits next to Henry and he's got a smiley face, people are saying that he's the good guy. He's going to do this. He's a fan. But how do you know that he won't come in and sack Mikel Arteta straight away?
Yeah.
How do you know that his fault isn't to go, do you know what? I don't like the management. I don't like the style. Get it out. How do we know that? We don't. We're making assumptions that he's just going to move forward and pump loads of money into the team.
Yeah.
But it's based on what?
Yeah, we don't want Sven-Goran Eriksson being brought in because he's a mate of his, which I know he is. He comes in and sacks it. But what do we want from an owner? What do we want from a chairman? We don't want, people say, he knows nothing about football, but who cares? We don't need them to know nothing about football. You have other people, you have sporting directors, you have managers, you have coaches, you have the players. It doesn't, I don't know why people always say this. Well, no, what do you know? We ain't got anybody else. You don't. The only thing you want from your own is this.
Money.
We don't want nothing else from you. You don't want advice. You don't want them to tell you what they think of the game. You don't want them to tell you what players are going to play. So all you want is money. And that's what Arsenal fans, is what I've been frustrated from over the last few seasons. He hasn't backed us. He's fooled fans into thinking that he's backed us by giving us the odds 75 once, with Pepe. And he's backed us. No, he hasn't. He's given us one player. And the same with Ozils and Sanchez. He's one players. Check. He fooled everybody there, didn't he? One player, everybody, it's Petr Cech. There's one player we didn't need, but he's tried to fool. But now it's got to a level now where Arsenal fans are, they've sussed him out, and you can't fool them. If he doesn't start backing, there will be. I can't see Arsenal winning another year out of Europe. That just can't happen.
No, it definitely can't happen.
Well, what it does is it maybe puts having Ek there, maybe sort of subconsciously puts a bit of pressure on the Kroenkes, knowing that if the team aren't producing and the Kroenkes aren't backing the manager, then there's someone sort of there in the wings waiting to take over. So they'd be like a goalie and a sub goalie. Like it's like there's competition there for the ownership. So
no, I agree. I agree. That could be put in the. It could be put in the frighteners up him to make sure that you keep on your toes. I mean, it's what you need. Owners need competition as much as players need competition. So you just keep on investing. And as Steve said, come January, come the summer. For me, it's the summer that's most important. In January, you get like the player that you. Generally in January you get a player that like you need to fill the gap, stop gap, or if you can get the actual player you want, you get him in. But the summer for me is the real sort of this is where we stand, this is where we're going forward, this is where you can make a decision what happens in the summer, because sometimes it's very hard to get a player of serious caliber that you actually want in January if that club does not want to sell.
Do you feel, Kieran? Do you feel that this January windows is a little bit different though because of the amount of players that are out of contract?
Free.
Yeah, in the summer
potentially. If those players are players that
because they're able to get a bit of money in January, then
if those players are players that Arsenal want, then yeah. But if they were potentially, I know what you're saying because there's so many top players that could potentially go on a free in the summer. I mean, we did the thing the other day. There's Mbappe, there's Drogba, Pogba. There's the list is actually frightening. That FC free transfer FC could win the league. It could win the league. It's a ridiculously good team. If Arsenal want some of them players, then yes, but. Yeah, I don't know what players Arsenal want from that list. Like I said before, I'm not interested in the big names. There were a lot of big names on that list, but I'm not interested in them. I'm interested in the right names. And so far this summer, there's not one player that we bought in that anyone out there would have said before the rumours started coming in that this is the player that I want. Not Tomiyasu, not Ben White, not Ramsdale, not Lokonga. And if anyone tries to tell me they said any of these, Odegaard maybe. Odegaard different, because we had him last season. But no one can tell me that Tomiyasu, White, Ramsdale, Lokonga, Tavares were players that were on the tip of your tongue if I turned around to you and said, what player should we bring in? Because they're the right player. Because three or five of them we've spoken about with great leadership qualities and mentality, and one of them that we didn't speak about was the captain of the Belgian under 21s team. So he's buying the right mentality and the right player at the moment, and may that continue. Anthony, we will get onto that. Before we go forward, people, if you're watching on Twitter, I saw about 35, 40 people watching on Twitter when I checked. So get over to YouTube, give us a sub, please. Yeah, we've got loads and loads coming. We've got some serious guests coming up. We're going to announce that very, very soon. And if you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on YouTube, please press that like and subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed, if you're watching on Facebook, press that like. I want to see another like. I want to see another thumbs up because I know there's more people watching on Facebook. Give us a thumbs up. Hit that like. Yeah. All right. Let's go. Let's move forward. My next question. I'm going to start with Jerome. Jerome, what do Arsenal need to do to get back into Europe? And the next question will be, what do Arsenal need to do to get into the top four? Because that's the important Europe. We can play around with the Europa League and whatnot, but the top four is the serious one. What do Arsenal need? Whether it's players, style of play, coaches, what do Arsenal need?
Yeah, I think the key thing for this season is they need to keep their first choice team fit. I think that is absolutely crucial. I think we've seen earlier on in the season that you take a few of these players out and it's a totally different team. So I think that's very important. Number one. What else do they need? I think they need the team to gel as well. I think that they need to build relationships within the team itself, and they need to keep the energy the same as what they've done on Sunday. it's hard in terms of transfers. It's very difficult because, like you said in January, it's very much like a stopgap period to sign players, and I think we've shown over the last few years buying these stopgap players that we see where it gets you. It gets you 8th and it gets you 8th again. So, you know what they've done in the summer is amazing. They've signed players, and most of them have just gone straight bang into the starting 11. And I think that's going to be the target for the next window. Is if you're going to make some signings, make signings that are going to go straight into the starting 11. No more squad players. You don't need squad players. That's where, like your youth should come into play. So the pressure's on sort of Edu and Arteta because they're the ones that spot the players. So the pressure's on them in terms of, you know, the next players to sign. But yeah, I think keeping the main starting 11 fit is massively important. Not rotating too much. I think we get an injury to Aubameyang. I think that's a problem. Because I wasn't at the Wimbledon game, but by all accounts, so Lacazette scored a penalty. He looked like he'd been on the burgers and chips. He looked well off. My dad and brother went. They said he looked well off the pace. Like to the. It's because so much so that it was a bit embarrassing to watch.
Because he's on his way out there. On his way out. He's on his way out. Like he knows he's on his way out. He knows he's not going to sign a new contract. They're not going to offer him a new an extended deal, like a serious deal that's going to see his career out at Arsenal. And he knows that Eddie Nketiah is probably in front of him. Yeah. So he's just like, which shows the mentality of the man. Like we've been talking about this for the last year. We spoke about this in last summer. Lacazette don't want to go. Arsenal are trying to get rid. We spoke about that last summer. There's no Arsenal want to keep. They're trying to get rid. They want to get 180 grand off of wages off the wage bill, and they want to get a 30-year-old man that's not a prolific goal scorer that should be at this point in his career. They want him out of the club because he's not the type of player that's going to push us to the top four. In fact, I'm not saying it's down to him, but it's when he's not consistently scoring enough to bring us up to that level, and that's a major problem. We'll talk about work rate. We could talk about he's an honest player when he plays. He drops in. We could talk about that. But when he's one-on-one in front of a goalkeeper, I want him to score a goal. That's what I want. That's all I asked for. And he wasn't doing that. He's not doing it enough. So it's time to move on. So yeah. Oh, look what Lacazette does to me. Steve, I'll ask you the same question. And then I'll come back to a point that you made, Jerome, in a minute. What do Arsenal need to get back into Europe?
To get back in the top six, like type of thing, yeah.
And then for long term, we'll talk about top four in a sec.
Yeah. Well, to get back in the top six is continue the type of form that we showed against Tottenham, and do not drop our levels, because that's what I was talking about when I said about Brighton. If you start dropping your level against Brighton, then that puts into my head, and that starts me worrying about getting in Europe. Arsenal need to keep there and not start going down here again. They want to keep at the level they did against Spurs. That's one thing. The second thing would be they sort of mash into one, I suppose. You know, bigger improvement, and and keep that. That with Emil Smith-Rowe and Saka, to keep them going higher and higher and getting better and better as the season goes on. And if they keep doing that, then that's another thing that I think would guarantee us Europe. And I think that will happen. I mean, I think these two. I mean, Emil Smith-Rowe, I won't be surprised if he gets picked in the England squad this week. So I think if they start carrying on the sort of progress that they've been showing recently, that's one thing. And I think that we need to buy possibly in January some squad players, because I don't think the players on the bench are good enough.
This is what I was. Sorry,
and I worry about if we got like Xhaka's injured. Okay, Lukonga's coming in. Everybody's getting excited, but we don't know, do we? We don't. I don't think is Lukonga going to be able to. I think Partey likes playing with Xhaka, but we'll see. Hopefully he does. We like Lukonga, but if we get another couple of injuries and Chambers has to come in, or Cedric has to come in for Tomiyasu, and Aubameyang gets injured, and we have to bring in Eddie Nketiah or Lacazette, then we ain't getting in Europe. So January is important to me. That's why I brought it up a couple of minutes ago when I said that, did you think that, because I can see us going in for some, not so much first team players, but some sort of squaddies, because I don't think our squad is big enough, and it needs to be, and it needs to be, because we ain't going to keep this 11 the whole season. So that's another thing. So the progression of the players that we've already got I think is massive. Carrying on the sort of levels that we play, our performances against Spurs, and also I think we've definitely got to look in January for some squad players, which is difficult because to try and get players in when you've got to tell them that they are just squad players is very difficult. But that's what I think we need to do.
Yeah, so this is what I was going to get to when Jerome, you said you've got to keep this team fit. That seems to be the problem. If you talk about keeping this team fit, you look at the starting off Ben White and Gabriel. They're the two new centre-back partnership. You lose them two, you've got Mari and Holden again. Yeah. Now, are they good enough for Arsenal to get into the top 6, let alone the top 4?
No,
they're not.
No.
So you've got to be looking for the next set of players you bring in. They're okay for a stopgap, a 1 game, 2 games maximum. It's when you have to start relying on them that seems to be the problem. This is an opportunity for someone at the end of the season for Arsenal to sell the likes of Mari and Holding and bring in a Saliba after a 3rd season out on loan.
Yeah,
or
sure.
do they need to? Do they then have someone like Daniel Ballard, who's had a season at Blackpool and got Player of the Year, and now is on a season in the Championship at Millwall, who's a week in week out starter? Do they have him as the 4th choice option, or do they go and buy? Or it's the same with midfield. What do you do with a Xhaka? You've got a first team player in Xhaka, and you've got a first team player in Partey. You've got your backup and a player that you're potentially bringing through in Lukonga. What level of midfielder do you go out and buy? Do you go out and buy a squad player, or are you going out to buy a first team player and they're all challenging for each other? The dynamics of the squad is so important, especially when we're talking about the camaraderie and the atmosphere that we've got around the team now. You don't want to damage it too much. But how do you go about bringing in the right player? What kind of player do you think Arsenal needs to bring in to compete, Jerome?
Yeah, so it's hard, but for me, the squad players of this squad are your likes of El Nene, Marie, Cedric, Chambers, and for me, if they're in the squad, it means that they're going to play at some point. Because they just will. That's just how it works. And so I don't want any players of that quality anymore. I want better than that. Because if we want to, like you said, the starting team aren't going to play 90 minutes every week. So you've got to aim for better than that. And that's the test that Arteta and Edu have got coming up. So yes, it's a tricky balance. But everyone knows these days that football's it's a squad game, and if you haven't got a very strong squad, then you're not going to compete. I'd be signing players to go straight in to challenge the starting 11 because El Nene ain't
selling.
El Nene isn't challenging for a starting position.
No, it's just a body.
Marie isn't challenging. These people aren't challenging. So you either buy players at that level and you're not going to move forward, or you buy better players and they challenge the starting 11. and that's how you improve. Otherwise, forget it.
Yeah. True, very true. Steve, what do Arsenal need to get into top four? Paul Merson's out there talking about after seeing Arsenal, which is a shock. I'm pretty sure it's off the back of a couple of the Arsenal players telling Paul Merson that he needs to relax himself when it comes to talking about Arsenal. But yeah, he turned around the other day and said that after seeing the game against Tottenham, Arsenal could challenge for the top four. What do they need? Because look, this team's not challenging for the top four. I think this team's good enough to get top six the way it is, if they keep fit. But top four, not a chance. Not a chance. What do they need to get top four?
That's
A miracle.
That was actually the first thing I was going to say. The question that Arteta must ask himself is, where can he go with this team? That's the question he'll ask himself. And we will say, we guarantee Europe with this team if they stay fit.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's got to do, he's got to have someone. It's all right saying we've got to bring in. The ideal thing would be exactly what Jerome said: bring in someone, bring in players who are going to fight for that spot week in, week in. Because we haven't got anybody now, have we? I mean, that 11 who's fighting for a spot, who wasn't playing against Spurs. No one. But if you're a you've got to be a really good negotiator. But when you're talking to players and say to them, "We want you to come to Arsenal," and then they say, "Well, what's your plans for me?" And then they say, "Well, we want you to fight for this spot." Now, if you're looking for a top class player, 9 times out of 10, they're going to go, "No, you're all right."
Yeah.
If I come, I'm starting. So it's very difficult, very, very, very difficult. If you're a Man City, you're a Man United, it's a lot easier. You can get Mahrez to come to your club. You can get Ferran Torres to come to the club. If you're Man United, you can get Van der Beek to come to your club and say, fight for your place, go and get your place, and they'll come because they're Man United and Man City. Arsenal ain't in that situation. So Arsenal, like we've always, like you've said, Kieran, for a long while now, Arsenal have to look down the level. And that's what we have to do. We have to find players who possibly are coming probably to the end of their careers, who are willing to maybe sit on the bench, and Arteta saying to them, "Look, if you can get in, when you start, if you're good enough, you stay in." And whether it's Ben White and Gabriel, I much really love them. If we bought someone like a Simon Cagio in January or a Matt Hummels in January, who are all sort of in their late 30s now, and we're thinking, well, I just want to come to a good club and get a good little contract, then maybe they're the type of players that you're looking for. Maybe up front, you're looking at a Luis Suarez, for instance, maybe. He's coming 33, 34, but maybe I think top quality players who know that they ain't going to go many places to start, now in their final contracts. Try and get those type of players in, because you're not going to. I mean, I've seen people like, you want players like Basumas and Jimenez's and all, that type of ilk, but they're not going to, Trippier, as cover for
Trippier ain't coming nowhere near the club, not with Tomiyasu there.
Yeah, but if you want to, that's they're the type of players you've got to try and convince. You've got to say, yeah, we got Tomiyasu, but if you get in, you stay in.
Yeah, true. You win it, you hold your shirt.
You hold your shirt, and we want that as much as we love Tomiyasu. We want that fighting every week, like Tavares. We think, maybe, but even so, like 11 players. There's nobody who's really fighting for that spot. So we've got to really try and find that, in my eyes, a top class player who maybe coming to the end of the career, who's willing to sit on the bench, who we can bring on when someone's, or play for 5, 6, 7 games when you're injured, who's willing to fight for their place and stay there. But it's very, very difficult because everybody wants to start. everybody wants to start. You don't want to. You don't go close to sit on the bench, and not unless you play for a massive club like Man United, Man City, or or Liverpool. Like Diego Jota sitting on the bench, and players like this, and it's difficult. But that's what I feel. The type of player you've got to aim for.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a tough one. It is a tough one. It's trying to convince a player in his prime to come into this team and fight for his place over someone like a Thomas Partey it's a very hard sell. However, I think trying to convince someone who might be coming into their prime that you're going to be taken over from Aubameyang is something a little bit easier and something that someone could stomach with maybe a season fighting for your spot, and then it's either his final season or he's gone, he's getting sold. But yeah, I think for this team going forward, it's got to be a case of purchasing players. You mentioned about the three players that Arsenal are looking for: goalkeeper, central midfielder, and a forward. I guess the goalkeepers for a replacement for Leno when he leaves. These are all at the end of the season, or looking at January.
Obviously, like you said, if you can get someone in January, then great, because in January you generally play cheaper. So that it would be great. But I've spoken to someone who I speak to when I speak to about Arsenal, and he's the one that's given me all the information in the past where he's been right, and he's told me that they're the three positions that he knows because he's spoken to someone very high up in the football club. And when I think about it, it makes sense.
It makes sense because it's a position that we were still looking at. Striker, look, Lacazette's going, and he needs replacing. And centre midfield was still a position that they were looking at before the end of the summer. It all rings true. And the goalkeeper for Leno, because he's never going to stay, which is why we said on the show many a times that when Ramsdale coming in, when people were saying Arsenal bought £30 million backup keeper, it was never a backup keeper. It was a player to replace Leno. Like it was to competition to take his spot this season. As you told said on the show, Steve, he's been brought in to fight for that number one shirt this season, and to be a long-term successor of Leno going forward.
Yeah, the central midfield one was interesting. That was a bit of a... I had to think about that one a little bit when he said that. For central midfield, we've got Lokonga, we've got Partey, we've got Xhaka, we've got Odegaard who drops, but I don't know. Maybe Xhaka's still umming and ahhing. You don't know. I don't. Maybe in training he's saying Lokonga he's not happy about. Who knows?
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that. I personally think it's I think Odegaard was bought for that number 10 position. And in that number 10 position we've got Emil Smith Rowe. There's no reason why you have two players for each position. So that number 10 is a solid position for us. It's not a wispy, waffy position which we play every now and again. We play a number 10 every game. That number 10 is a midfielder, an attacking midfielder. So I think that was Odegaard and Smith Rowe. Because if we would have come into this season with just Smith Rowe at number 10 and no other competition, I think that would have been a bit of a worry. And he didn't even play number 10 the other day. He played on the wing. So that's the first bit. Yes, Partey, in my eyes, is more than a defensive midfielder, but he's a bosher as well, and he's one of the best around. And I think Lokonga's in there as his understudy. But what you haven't got is a Granit Xhaka replacement. You haven't got a Granit Xhaka understudy. And I think that will be the central midfield player that's going to come in. But that central midfield player won't be anything like Xhaka. I think he's going to be a lot more mobile. I think he's going to be the kind of central midfield player that Arsenal will want going forward, which will be a bit more, just a bit more of a ball player. Not ball player, because Xhaka's a very good ball player, but like, I don't think he's going to be that imposing figure that Xhaka is. I think he's going to be a central midfielder that maybe can just be a bit more of an all-rounder. So yeah, I think it'll be similar to a number 8, but just a bit more of a, your old school central midfielder. I think it'll be that. Yeah, but who knows? It remains to be seen. We're going to go through the comments section quickly before we do sign off. Anthony Kelly says, bring back Guendouzi and Saliba. Keep Guendouzi away from Arsenal. Full stop. Sorry, Anthony. Never want to see that geezer in an Arsenal shirt ever again. Saliba, he's got another chance for me. And if he does well with his loan spell at Marseille, there's no reason why he should come back and take over from the likes of Mari or Holding and challenge for that first team spot, which I think would be perfect time. And I think if Arsenal, if that was the plan of Arsenal, I think they've done well. But yeah, that remains to be seen. But Guendouzi, not for me. Was Steve saying we should always look to improve players in the transfers and let them fight out and for the starting point and have some healthy competition. Yeah, definitely. That's what Jerome was alluding to. Glenn Cook, one of my favourites. Spurs are good until we beat them, and then they were dreadful. Lazy punditry at its finest. They've been hating since we became invincible. I completely agree. Agree, Glenn. Flew off. Players haven't got the stomach to fight for a place in the team. I personally think a lot of the players don't have the character. But surely this squad might be different. Jerome, what do you think of that one? Do you think this team's different? Do you think they've got the character to fight out for positions?
I don't know. I think he might mean sort of just generally in terms of like the modern day player. I think, like we said, like our starting 11, it sort of picks itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think it's just related to just players in general, not the Arsenal players.
But if you look at someone like Man City, who have got a big squad and a bench which is frightening to most teams, that Pep Guardiola must be selling them something that's saying that you can fight for your spot and that to be the best around, that you have to have a depth in squad.
Well, I think the players at Man City, they're very lucky because they're working for probably one of the best managers that's been in the game, and they're obviously a very successful club. So when you're winning titles most seasons, it makes it a bit easier than when you're sort of trying to sort of get into Europe when that's your aim. They're winners at Man City, so a bit different.
Right, and Anthony says they need a Basuma, Isaac, and Doku. Doku, I think he's going to Liverpool, isn't he? Isaac is very, very good player. What would your take on Isaac be if as a replacement for Lacazette, Steve, or do you have a preference for someone else? I say that knowing Steve has a preference for someone else, but carry on.
But my preference to someone else is not going to cover a fight for his place. I don't think that's. But there's a few. I would like Jimenez and Andre Silva. They're the type of players, but what a goal he scored. Jimenez scored the weekend. But unless Arsenal change their system, then I can't see him playing above. You can't play a Aubameyang wide now because the way we set up, it always means someone else sitting on the bench. So I don't know.
Do you think Ivan Toney would come in and fight for his position?
That's what you meant, weren't it? That's what you meant when I said. I would.
Do you know what? It's because
I would love Ivan Toney.
It's because I put out a tweet earlier on which basically said what players would Arsenal need to get back to where they should be, get back to the elite, and someone popped in and said, "What do you think of Ivan Toney?" And people started responding about Ivan Toney. It was very positive about Ivan Toney, and quite a few people like the look of Ivan Toney. In fact, a couple of people told me, personally left me messages and said that they've since we were bigging up Ivan Toney ages ago. And funny enough that Jerome did his player profile on him, that they've been keeping an eye on him, and they really rate him. They're saying he's the English Drogba. So I stole that one of them.
Well, people were saying, oh, he's done it in that league. He's done it in the Championship. Can he do it in the Premiership? Well, people seen him since he came into the Premiership. He's been absolutely outstanding. Again, he's a bully. And I think at this moment in time in his career, he's 3 times the player. Like as it is, he would be perfect. It's absolutely perfect for Arsenal. The trouble is, I've been told today, I'm not even going to mention it, who's interested in him and where he might go in the summer, but and who's been inquiring about him. But I've not been any inquiries about Arsenal. I've heard Tottenham have been interested in him, but that again, it's if Harry Kane leaves because he's leaving now. Anyway, going back to the point you made up, but Ivan Toney would be perfect for Arsenal. I'd even, but again, you've got to get that happy medium, you've got to get that happy camp where, where does he play? Ivan Toney is a centre forward, a bully, a Giroud. He's one of these. He's got a bit more pace than Giroud, than he has. But can you play him and maybe hang together? I'm not sure.
But at that point, you're talking about the end of the season. Aubameyang's only got 1 year left on his contract.
I'd go and get him. I'd get him now. In fact, would he come? I don't know. But he would be a no-brainer for me. I'd go and get him in January, and what's he worth? I don't know. What's he worth? 30 million, 35 million. Mm-hmm. But I knew he would score goals in the Premiership because I followed him for a long while now. But I would love Ivan Toney at Arsenal, and he's definitely the type of player we need.
Yeah. All right. And that is all we have time for. It's gone over the clock. I fouled again. Look what you've done to me, people. It's all the comment section. Absolutely killed it tonight. Thank you very much for being there and getting involved in that topic of conversation, people. All right. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Steve.
Cheers, mate. Welcome.
And thank you very much for joining us tonight, Jerome.
Yeah, of course. Pleasure. Thanks.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. He bullied Virgil van Dijk. And anyone that can bully Virgil van Dijk is on my shopping list, 100%. All right, before we go, let's say, all right, one of my favourites, You're Not, always here. You're Not, was watching live in Marie's Bundesliga minutes with Derek Ray. You are the man, You're Not. You are the man.
Made some very good points, Made some very good points in that.
Love that.
In that
very
show,
good points. Craig Marks, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Anthony Keeley, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Becoming a regular as well. Thank you. Appreciate that. Johnny, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I see you said that you couldn't see the Arsenal show in the search on YouTube. Well, I will make sure we sort that out. Don't worry about that because I can't be having that. This is absolute disgrace. Thank you very much for the shout out there, Johnny. Stephen, where have you been? I know you're working late. Is that what it is? You're working late. Thank you very much for joining us. Good to have you back, man. Good to have you back. Glenn, always here. Glenn, number 10. That's what Glenn is, number 10. Who else we got? That's it. All right. Thank you for joining us tonight, people. Peace out. Stay safe. And wash your hands. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Come on, subscribe.